Hey everyone, so in this module we're going to do an exercise on creating participants. So what we've just done is we just talked a little bit about participant assignments, and so now we're going to go into the application and create a new participant. There's actually a number of ways to create participants in the application. If you have a third-party HCM system, there are file-based loaders and other protocols to bring participant information over. In this exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to manually just create one participant directly within the user interface within the application, and then just create them and then bring them into incentive compensation. So in your training materials, there is a lab on participant creation. And what we're going to do is we're going to go step by step and create a new participant. So in order to do that, I'm going to navigate over to the application. And let's log in with our incentive compensation administrator we were using earlier. We're going to log in with username @Kelly, use the password that's been provided to you, and click sign in. And we're brought to the incentive compensation screen. So there are a number of ways that you can create a new user manually within the application. You could go to the navigator and add the responsibility of manage user to the login that you're currently using. Or what you can do is you can go to functional setup manager under setup and maintenance. And so I'll click on that. And when I click on that, I'm brought to a search screen where I can search for a number of tasks. And so let's just type out manage users, and I'll click search. And I can see the search brings back one result. It says manage users, so I'm going to click go to task. And then from here, if I've already created other users, I could simply search for them by using the keyword. But what I'm going to do is let's create a new user. And so I'm going to click on the create icon right here. And this is all documented in the lab if you want to do the step-by-step instructions with the paper that you have provided. So I'm going to go and enter the last name. I'll hire myself. So we'll do last name is Lowe. First name is Jason. I have to give him an email address, so I'll say jason.lowe@demo.com. I want to set the start date, and the start date is important because we created a compensation plan that started the beginning of this calendar year, and if I'm going to create transactions for any point this year, I want my person to be part of that. So I'm going to just select the first day, so January 1st of 2015. And again, I mentioned this in the compensation plans exercise as well, is that dates are extremely important. Everything within the application is date effective. All the comp rules, all the crediting rules we'll get to in a later module, all the calculations, as well as the assignments for the people. So hire date of the first of the year, looks good. So now what we want to do is we want to give them the username. This is the ed.kelly or the amy.fang. This is used for their login. It's also what's passed to Oracle Identity Manager. So it then provisions them so that they can have a login into the application. So we've created the user with Jason Lowe with the email address, hire date, and we've given them a username. So we have to select the person type. So one of the things, and I mentioned this in the last module, is that core with all the Fusion applications is the HCM foundation. And with that, that gives us the user interface to just manually enter a one-off person like we're creating right now. Again, if you want to leverage a file-based loader or other integration principles, particularly for mass uploads when you have large employee bases, you would certainly do this. This is just an exercise in a laboratory setting so that you have the opportunity to create someone so that we can use them for future labs. So I've selected them as an employee. So the legal employer is U.S. Legal Entity 1. This is just in our demo environments. And then it's also U.S. 1 for the business unit. Now there's a couple optional things that you can do here while you're on this data entry screen. Location on the right-hand side. If you remember, if you've seen demos of the sales manager, there's a dashboard that's called My Team's Compensation. And what it does is it renders all the salespeople geographically onto a map. So that map is driven by their location information. So if you want to enter in a location, this is really primarily for purposes. Certainly you can do it for data entry purposes, but it also is used for incentive compensation specifically because that is how the My Team's compensation map is rendered and where the icons are on the map. Another thing you might want to do is you might want to associate a manager to this, because one of the things that a lot of customers like to see is not only how the individual salesperson is seeing themselves there, but they also like to see who they report to. And so this is where I can associate that this demo person, Jason Lowe, might report to manager X, and then manager X reports to manager Y. And so when I go into the person gallery or the person directory, I then have the ability to navigate through the organization chart to see who reports to who. But in this lab, those are optional steps as documented in the lab exercise. And so we're not necessarily going to do that for this procedure. And what we are going to do is we are going to assign them a resource role, and we're going to give them a sales responsibility. And of that sales responsibility, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to select auto provision rules. And once I've auto provisioned the roles and I can see that there are now entries listed down here, I can simply click Save and Close. And so clicking Save and Close, what this does, again, is that it is storing it at the HR level, but it's also storing it down at the TCA level. And so just to confirm that the person I just created is there, I'm going to simply query for my name, which is Jason. And I can see that Jason Lowe was just created. If I wanted to drill into that record, I could go in and make any adjustments that I want to, but I'm happy with the base level information I created. So once the record has been created through the HR UI and then it's then been synchronized into TCA, it's now time to go into incentive compensation and bring that salesperson in as a compensated individual within incentive compensation. It's important to note that we do not bring in every record in TCA. And that wouldn't make sense, would it? Because in addition to salespeople that might be eligible for variable compensation, there are also administrative assistants and people that work in the warehouse and people in accounting. And you wouldn't want to replicate the entire employee base in incentive compensation. So to register those people that are just compensated individuals that are going to be leveraged for incentive compensation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the navigator. And then from the navigator, I'm going to go over to participant assignments. And within participant assignments, again, I'm brought to an embedded dashboards where I can see all the participants by analysts, as well as the number of participants I have by whatever role I have associated to them. So in this exercise, also on the left-hand side is the shortcuts where I can maximize the screen so I can have full view of it, or I can leverage the shortcuts through the left navigation pane. On the left navigation pane, there's the first task listed under participants is import participants. And so what we're doing is we're importing or we're registering them from TCA and recognizing them within incentive compensation. So I click on import participants and I'm brought to an import screen. For those of you that are following in the lab, we are on step number 7. I'm going to select Run For, and from the list of values, I'm going to select Run For Staging and Oracle Incentive Compensation Participant Import. And for party usage, instead of Prospect, which is defaulted in our demo environments, I am going to search for HR Employee. Here I can see a number of usages, and so I'm going to select HR Employee and select OK. The rest of this looks good. If I wanted to select additional filters, whether it be based on the target country or the actual name of the person I want to bring in or from a particular start date or end date, I could select those as well. But for right now, this looks fine to me, so I'm going to select Continue. And then once I hit Submit, what this is going to do is it runs a concurrent request behind the scenes that's then registering them within incentive compensation. I say OK. If I want to see the status of that process, on the left-hand side, there is the View Processes under Tasks. So I'm going to select View Processes. And then I simply hit the refresh button. And I can see that the process has succeeded, has been completed, and it's imported the participants. In order to confirm that the participant has been brought into incentive compensation, another way that I can check is I can go to the navigator, I can go to Participant Snapshot. And from the participant snapshot, I can click on the tab at the top that says Select Participant. And then from here, I can query for the participant I just created. So let's just say Jason, quick search. And I can see Jason Lowe's been created. So it was entered in the UI from that HCM foundation, and then we ran the synchronization, and is now a registered participant within incentive compensation. If I drill into Jason, this is where I can see additional information. Perhaps, and one of the things that a lot of customers ask us about is I have additional information that I want to bring in. In addition to just who the person is and who they report to, I might want to bring in specifics about their role, or maybe assignments, country assignments, or what their salary information is. So there is an associated area called the participant details. Again, this is the supplemental information that might come from your HR or your CRM system that you might want to bring in that are person specific. And so you can associate those or hang those onto the core participant as part of the participant details. Again, those can be imported in as well as brought over via web services. And coming into the snapshot is the note under step 9 of the lab. You'll note that it says you can go into the participant snapshot just to confirm that the person's been created. So we've done that, so we think that's fine. So let's go back to participant assignments. And what we're going to do in participant assignments is we are going to complete this lab, and we're going to associate this new resource we just created and associate them to the compensation plan we created earlier. And once we're back in participant assignments, I can see the navigation on the left-hand side of all the tasks that I can do. And there's one task under assignments that says manage compensation plans. So I simply select that hyperlink. And I can see a list of all the compensation plans that I have available in the system. I can see the one that I've created right here, which is the JL Green servers, but let's say hypothetically it was a much longer list and I wanted to query for it. I could query for it up top just by typing JL and clicking search, and it would narrow my search just to the record that I'm looking for. If I drill into the compensation plan of JL Green servers, this is where we can associate people to compensation plans. So we talked a little bit earlier about roles. So if I would have created a role called sales rep, and I would have hired my demo character, Jason Lowe, and associated him to that role of sales rep, and if I would have associated sales rep to the role assignment, that means that every person that's onboarded with the job code or job responsibility of sales rep would automatically be associated to this compensation plan. But for this exercise, we're going to do a direct assignment. So instead of the role assignments tab, I'm going to navigate to the right to the direct assignments tab. And to add a resource manually to a compensation plan, I simply click on the green plus button. And I query for the person I want to add, Jason. Quick search. And I can see all the Jasons that show up in the system. I'll select myself, say apply, and done. And I've now been associated to this compensation plan. Again, effective start dates and end dates are associated. Everything in the system is date effective. I say this looks good, so I select save and close. And that's it. That concludes our exercise on creating a participant. Again, you could have leveraged a file-based loader or another import to bring it in. What we did is we did it manually. Once we created them through HCM Foundation, and saved that record, it then ran a synchronization that stored them as a party within TCA, and then we went into participant assignments and then associated that person to incentive compensation. Again, not all people in TCA are going to be eligible for incentive compensation plans, so we just want to bring those people in. So once we've done that, we registered the demo character into incentive compensation. We associated the person that we just created to the compensation plan that we created earlier, and that's it. And that concludes this exercise of creating a new participant.